I was just going to ask you.
Thank you.
Hey, Ingrid, glad you made it. I discovered you'd had gotten that before. I just didn't recognize your name by stories.
Oh, no. Thank you so much for keeping an eye out for that. And I have been waiting for this workshop before I send my materials in, just to make sure I didn't miss anything. So things are almost poised to submit.
Good.
Yeah. But I will say I do appreciate these various tech rehearsals or tutorials that you've had. That's really been great.
We know not everyone is technologically proficient, and even if you are, we're doing a few things that might be new to some people. So
it does feel like Zoom is kind of an ever expanding world of opportunities. So it's great.
yeah, the Zoom has been evolving rapidly since a year ago. So there's always something new. It seems every 2-3 weeks there's something new with Zoom.
Good to see everybody this morning. Thank you for coming.
Katie, I'm going to learn my lesson, and I'm going to let y'all introduce yourselves. I'm sorry, make that public.
That is totally fine. Do you want us to get started now, or are we good to go? It's almost 5 after, but.
Yeah, I know. I think we got to go, and we're
Okay.
recording, so if somebody misses a few minutes, that's fine.
Sounds good. Well, thank you everybody for being here. Congratulations on presenting a workshop for Tejas. And my name is Katie Knutson, and my delightful co-host is Ms. Erin O'Neill. We will be your part of your tech team for the Tejas, the Texas Storytelling Festival. Sorry. So we are here. We did run a big giant storytelling conference over the summer, and some of you participated in that. And so we've got a little bit of experience using Zoom as a platform, and we are happy to share some of that knowledge with you. Now, excuse me, just to get a sense of who is here and what you've already seen, how many of you have participated in the other workshop that we did last week with really technical stuff about lighting and sound and okay, great. So I'm seeing almost everybody. So you have access to that recording if you weren't a part of it, right? So we won't go over that stuff in nearly as much detail. We'll focus more on the mechanics of what we'll be doing as workshop leaders or as hosts of storytellers, so that we can really focus in, and we might even be able to end early. Erin, what do you want to say before we get started?
I think that's it. Good to see some familiar faces, and we'll do kind of a quick review, just kind of an overview, and then we'll dive into some tools that may help you find more accessibility on this virtual platform with especially some workshops, especially as storytellers. You know, we want to be in person so badly, and there are some activities that you may feel limited on a virtual platform, but we're here to tell you that you are not limited and that we're going to find ways to make everything happen for you. So we'll just do a quick overview of some important key tech things to keep in mind, and then we'll dive into some of the workshop-based details for you. So happy to be here.
So we're going to get started with just a couple quick things about your computer. The number one thing you can do to be successful in your workshop is to have a good internet connection. If you are able to get a wired connection to your modem, please do. That is going to be the number one thing that will make a difference. Other things you can do are to make sure your computer is plugged in if it's a laptop, to close extra programs and tabs so that you don't have a lot of things running on your computer. And if you know that your internet is spotty wherever you are, you can also cut down on the interference by making sure that other devices in your home are not running on Wi-Fi. So that means going to your iPads and your phones and your kids' computers or partners, grandparents, whatever, any kind of other devices that are there in your home, and just putting them on airplane mode so that they aren't taking up some of that bandwidth.
And then I know we talked last time about we need to see you, we need to hear you, and we gave some more technical tips in the last video. So if you need to review any of those tech tools, like this handy dandy selfie ring that I'm not using because I have great natural light coming in front of me, wink wink, that was in the last video. If you need to review some of those very specific technical aspects to it, please feel free to watch the recording. But in general, make sure that you have a great mic, make sure that your camera is functional and won't cut in and out on you. And that will also happen if your internet is not stable, as Katie mentioned. So make sure that we can see you the whole time, hear you the whole time, and really be able to engage with you. Keep in mind what we said about eye contact, just pick a place that's reliable and continue to look in that area, and use Zoom to your advantage, but in a way that makes you feel comfortable. So we definitely want to be able to hear and see your content, because if you're in the dark, we will be too, and that would be really unfortunate. So just remember to use what you have around your house. Make sure that you can put some lamps in front of you if you need to light your face a little bit more. Make sure that if the light is going to change over time, this is a big one that I personally always forget. If your light is going to change, if I'm presenting at sunset or something, I might want to have some extra lamps around in handy, and just in case I need to turn them on or kind of adjust my lighting as I go. So keep that in mind. But in general, just check in with your equipment. Make sure what you have is reliable. Run some practice tests. Record yourself for a bit. Make sure that it's playing back okay, that everything is synced, and you should be good to go. But in general, just kind of check in with what you've got and have some backups ready just in case.
Great. And then just a reminder about background. Think about something that's relatively neutral. You may have noticed that since the call started, I've adjusted my desk actually just a little bit, because you see, I can get, if I go this way too far, I get a little bit of blue and a little bit of my door. And if I go this way too far, I just get a hint of my bookcase, which isn't really enough to make it worth having that there. So I just pull my desk a little bit so that there I've got a good frame. Whatever works for you. Because you are, well, I shouldn't make this assumption, but if you are not moving as much in your workshop as you would be during a performance, you might be able to get away with a virtual background. But again, I highly recommend against them, because they do funny things to your hands and your head, and they can be distracting. They can also be very interesting, and hopefully they're not more interesting than you or your content, because that is never a good sign.
I like your plant, Katie. It's very homey. I feel at home.
It's amazing because it's actually in my home. I got it from a fellow storyteller.
White wall here. Very interesting today. So let's talk about workshop content, because a lot of the concerns that I hear from storytellers or really any presenters of workshops, they're like, my content is a very specific set way, and I usually do it in person. So this virtual setting is going to limit my accessibility to present my content. I'm here to tell you it's not. There are ways that you can get creative. So for example, one of the workshop presenters that I was kind of consulting with at one point was like, I used to do this great in person. I would pair people off. They would do kind of a miming activity with each other, and they would be face to face and be able to really just relax and read each other's responses. And I just feel like in a virtual platform, that's not accessible to me. Well, we have breakout rooms, and it may not feel the same, but as you can see, Katie and I are probably side by side on your screen, or if we're not, you may be in gallery view. But in a breakout room, you would have each other side by side, so you'd be able to see each other's movements or expressions just in a little bit different of a way. So keep in mind that if you have an activity that you're not sure will work with a virtual platform, it's always worth asking to see if that's possible. And we're going to dive into a little bit of that today. So we're going to talk a little bit more in depth and kind of experience and play around with breakout rooms, which can be great for separating people into group work. It'll also enable you to kind of jump around in rooms and check in with groups as they're working. We'll talk about polls and different accessibilities that you may want to take advantage of with that, especially if you have a large group and you want to get immediate feedback from people. We'll also talk about the chat and how you can use that to your advantage. Chances are you've had quite a bit of experience with the chat, but we'll talk about some of the advantages to having that enabled or not having that enabled, depending on what your session is. And then we'll also talk about screen sharing and when it might be appropriate to use it and when it might not be, and kind of how to present your visuals in a concise and intentional way that doesn't bury your content beneath slides, but allows people to really engage with what you're sharing with them. So just keep in mind as we go, kind of think about some of the activities that you might have done in person that you may have been setting aside because a virtual platform didn't feel accessible to you, because we're determined to find a way to make it work. Handouts and like, for example, handouts. I know a lot of people like to give some kind of notes or an outline, or if you wanted to give your slides at the end, or if you have a link to a certain web page that you wanted to share. The easiest way to do this, in my opinion, would be to use a Google Doc or even a Google Drive if you wanted people to just kind of be able to go to one folder where you have everything located, and then just drop those links in the chat. Now, I don't know what your festival platform will look like, if there's a place to post general links for everyone to access later, or if it will just be in your particular session. But keep that in mind in your planning, that having a link is going to be far easier for you than having a physical PDF file, because you'll have to upload that somewhere anyway. So I would strongly recommend taking advantage of Google Drive. Upload that to a Google Drive, just copy that link, share it into the chat, and people can then save the chat at the end if they're not able to access it right away. Or that may be something that you could send out later if people request it. I know during the conference, we did a lot of, hey, here's the chat from your session. Thank you for participating. Let us know if you have any questions. But most people, especially if you've upgraded your Zoom account, you should be able to download and save that chat right before the session logs off. So leaving a little bit of time for that at the end will make sure that people have that link when they need it. Ingrid, did you have a question about that? Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, sometimes with Google Drive, you think you're sharing and you think you're open, and then people come back and they're like, I need a password or I need permission. Do you have some thoughts about like how to troubleshoot that? Because that would be a real hang up.
Yeah, absolutely. So you will want to make sure when you go to your Google Docs and you go to share a document or a folder, you'll see right above where you have the option to copy the link, or right near the copy the link. It depends on how it looks for you. There should be a drop down that says anyone with the link can view, or anyone on a certain network can view. So for example, like if I were sharing it on a work account, it may only have my work enabled so that anyone within my work network could access it, but if somebody outside of that network may not be able to. So you'll want to make sure that it's anyone with the link can access. But then you can also change the editing access. So you'll want to make sure that it's just viewing or reading rather than editing. Or you could also enable it for comments if you wanted people to be able to comment on your handouts later. So Katie said that she'll demo that while she's doing the screen sharing for you. But you will just want to make sure that Google Document settings, when you go to hit share, are accessible to everyone with the link. That's a great question. So yeah, if you have content that you want to share with people through a document, I would recommend doing Google Docs. Or if you feel more comfortable and you want people's contact information, I mean, I don't think there's a problem with saying, hey, if you want this handout, drop your email in the chat, I'll download it and send it to you after. It's all going to depend on kind of what you guys are comfortable with and what your audience is comfortable with as well.
One other thing is that if you have your own website and you want to also try to drive some traffic to your website, the other thing that I've done in the past is to just put all the information that I want people to have for a specific workshop on a specific hidden page on my website. So they'll only be able to find it with the link. And then I give them the link to my website with that extra little part at the end. Now that does require a little bit more tech capacity than just making a Google Doc. But if you are somebody who has your own website and manages it yourself, it's you may already know how to do that. And it is one way to just drive some traffic to your website and help people know more about what you do. Okay, so let's talk specifically about breakout rooms. I know you've all been waiting for this moment. So there are, so you don't have to worry about the breakout rooms. Let me say that first. All you have to do is let us know what you want, and we will make the magic happen behind the scenes. All right, so here are your first options for breakout rooms. First of all, we need to know how many people you want to have in a room. And that means that we need to know your ideal number and then the other number that you would like be willing to work with. So let's say if your ideal number is 3 people per room, the chances of it being exactly right where there are exactly 3 people per room is pretty slim. So would it be better to have one room or a couple rooms with 2 people, or would it be better to have a couple rooms with 4 people? So we need to know what your ideal is, and then which side of that we should err on. If you have an activity where it's going to be specifically timed and each person has 5 minutes, and you want to have 3 people in a room, then it would make more sense to just have it be 2 people in a room so they get a little bit extra time, rather than having 4 people who try to each cram in, 2 3/4 minutes or something, to try to make the timing work. So think about what you're going to be asking them to do in the breakout rooms and tell us how many people you want. Now, other things you can do are, we can just assign it automatically. And that means that Zoom will just randomly assign people to breakout rooms. Or we can assign manually. So that would require a little bit more work with Tejas. But if you say, I want to have, an experienced storyteller with a brand new storyteller for this one exercise, is there any way we can make that happen? If you give me the list, can I try to maybe guess who would be where and tell you which breakout rooms I would like them to be in? Like I said, that's a bit more work, and that would be kind of a less ideal option. But if it really would work for your workshop, I think you could make that request. And then, but that does all need to be assigned in advance. And then the other thing that we can do is to let a participant choose which room they're going to go into. So if you wanted to have all the beginning storytellers together, and then all the intermediate storytellers together, and all the advanced storytellers together, you could set rooms and let them choose. Or you could say, I'm going to have this group, you choose if you want to be in the healing story group, in the working with children group, or the working with seniors group, and you pick one of them. So you can decide what you want your breakout rooms to look like. The one that's used most often is just randomly assigning. You see who you get, and you get what you get. You don't throw a fit. And then, and the other thing that we should know is, if you are doing breakout rooms that are randomly assigned, then do you want people to be with the same partner or group if you're doing more than one breakout room, or do you want it to be new every time? So let's say you have a group of, where you're going to be doing partner shares, and you're going to have one person tell a story, and then the other person tells it back, and then, and then they switch, and then they come back to the main room, they get more instructions from you, and then they go back with that same partner, and they need to know that other person's story already to be able to continue. Then we would want to know, don't change the rooms, leave the same people. If, however, you want them to be different people, we also need to know that. So just make sure you're clear about that. Now, you don't have to worry about the technical side of actually assigning people during your workshop, but we do need to know when it happens in your workshop. So you could say, we're going to have, I'm going to have a 5-minute lecture here. And then, as you're talking, we're going to pay attention to what you're saying. So if you say something like, in a moment, we're going to send you to a breakout room, then we'll know, oh, we're going to start pulling up that breakout room and getting that ready. Okay. So just give us some verbal cues, but you don't have to do like, hey, Erin, how those breakout rooms, are you ready yet? Hey, Erin. Oh, you got it? You sure? Okay. It's 3 people, right? That's what we talked about, right? Let's get that all done beforehand, so that we can at least give the appearance of being professional and knowing what we're doing. All right. So I'm going to give you a chance now to experience what it's like to go into a breakout room, in case you haven't done that. So I'm going to create 3 separate breakout rooms with 5 participants per room. And what I would like you to do is, while you are in that room, notice what functionalities you have. Okay. Notice what you can do in the chat window. I want everybody, at least one person in each room, to try to figure out how to ask for help from within your room. That is something that you can do within the room, and that your participants might need to do as well. So somebody needs to ask for help from each room, and then Erin or I am going to pop into each room, and we're just going to say hi, just to show you what that looks like. So we're going to jump from room to room, which you can also do as one of the co-hosts during your workshop. So here's your breakout rooms. you should see a button that says join room, that you're invited to a specific room. Lots of people are taking off. If you don't see it, let me know. And Erin, you can just ignore yours. All right, let's see if they can figure out how to ask for help. And Erin, I
I'm
wonder,
seeing Paul is asking for help in room 1. Are you seeing that?
let me,
Oh, that may only go to hosts, I wonder. It may need to be
okay,
hosts and not
yep,
co-hosts.
good. So we've got, so Paul in room 1. All right, I'm going to, Erin, do you still have the invitation to go to room 2?
Nope, but I think I can.
Do you want to just jump in and try to help them find that?
Yep, to room 2.
Yeah, and I'll jump to room 1.
Nope, just kidding. I don't think I can.
Oh,
Because I think
okay.
it's because I'm not a host.
Do you need to be the actual host? Wait, I think, oh,
Oh, here we go. I'm joining.
okay, great. Okay, I'm going to, hi Vivian,
I
welcome.
need to save the chat before I left. Let me go back and get that chat. Oh, I lost it. Oh, darn. I wanted that link to the videos. Is what I wanted.
Oh, hang on.
We can send that again.
Okay, and then I'll have to go off to my other Zoom meetings. What I was running off to.
Let me copy paste that again.
Oh, thank you. And as soon as I went to the other meeting, I went, oh no.
Oops,
Totally.
sorry. Send that
Thank
to
you so
everybody.
much. Awesome. Save that now.
Janet, you might need to make me the actual host rather than a co-host.
Okay.
All right. Take care. Thank you all so much.
You too. Yes, have a wonderful day.
I'm clicking on make you host, but it's not doing it. I'm not sure if breakout rooms are interfering or.
Okay. Well, I will go ahead
Make
and
host.
if you go down to the breakout rooms tab at the bottom,
Mm-hmm.
do you see my name on there? Under unassigned?
Yes.
Can you assign
And
me to room
assign
1?
you to room 1. Yes.
Yep. Thank you.
I'm sure they're jumping around.
And so when they pop in, will it just be what I see up on top?
And I think, Janet, you weren't assigned to this room, or you left one room and came to this room?
As host, I couldn't make Katie host for some reason. Maybe it's because breakout rooms were active. But I assigned her to room 1, and so I thought I'd come to room 3 because.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, but did you assign yourself to 3, or did you use your power as host to change rooms?
I had the option to click a join on which room, and I chose room 3.
Yeah, well, what I'm saying is that because you made me co-host, down at the bottom where it says breakout rooms, if you click on that button, and I think the other participants may not have that, I can actually move from room to room.
Oh,
Okay.
There's Erin.
there's Erin.
How we doing?
Has the
Very
option
Did you,
to,
Erin, I was just confirming about moving from breakout room to breakout room. That's limited to host and co-host, is that correct?
Correct.
Okay,
Now, but we can change that for participants if you want them to be able to move to different rooms themselves. So we can enable that, or we can enable requests for that. But we'll just need, that will be a setting that we should probably do ahead of time.
And what does the little badge on the breakout rooms mean when it appears?
Badge.
Like I just got one that said 1 and then it went away. A little red, like.
Oh, a notification.
Oh, is that what it is?
Yes,
Okay.
so somebody joined the call that was not yet assigned to a room. So if you have people that are left in the main room, like for example, Katie right now is back in the main room by herself. So you'll see as a host or a co-host, if you click breakout rooms, you'll see Katie is kind of grayed out and it says not joined.
Yes.
And that's because she's in the main room. So if somebody
Okay.
comes in late, you might see a notification that needs you to assign them to a room.
Gotcha. Okay.
So Erin, what did you see that indicated you needed to come to this room? What was?
So that's one of the things, as a co-host, I didn't actually get a notification that we needed help. That was only visible to the host. So that's something we'll need to keep in mind, is the host will have to tell the work. So I was actually just talking about how the host is the only one who can see requests for help. So they'll just need to make sure that they let the co-host know if there is somebody who's bouncing from room to room like Katie or I, you'll just need to let them know if somebody needs help, because the host is the only one who can get those requests. So it may be wise during breakout rooms to switch hosting capabilities to the workshop presenter or the moderator to kind of help be aware of which rooms are asking for help. The other thing that came up for us was recording within the rooms, because you'll notice when you go back to watch this recording that it's probably only still recording the main room, or it's following the host. So there was a question about enabling recording within the breakout room so that individuals could record their breakout room privately if they wanted to. I don't know, Katie, do you have an answer for that? Because
I mean, I think if you at any time
they said that it needed to be requested from the host, but it seemed to be possible.
Okay. Yeah, I think it's I can't think of, well, I guess I can think of some reason why you might want to record in your breakout rooms, just to have a record of your own story that you're working on. But yeah, that would be something that if you do want to allow participants to record in breakout rooms, make that request. We're going to go into another breakout room and let's try it. Let's just see what happens. While we are here in the main room, Janet, can you make me the host and not just the co-host?
I believe you are the host.
Yes, you are host, Katie.
Perfect. Thank you. And then I will be able to jump from room to room. So I am creating now well, actually first, is there anything that you experienced in that room other than the recording question? Are there any other questions that you had that came up being in those rooms?
I think Sue has a question in the chat.
Oh, okay. Go ahead. Or Erin, do you want
to? So Katie and I should be able to handle the breakout rooms for you during the workshops, or if you have them pre-assigned, you can always do that. But I assume that would be Katie or I handling breakout rooms. So you shouldn't need to use it. You shouldn't need to know how to facilitate that. It's mostly just knowing what's accessible to you in terms of, okay, I want certain groups here or certain groups there, or the ability to go back and forth. So this is really more of knowing what's accessible to you rather than knowing the know-how of how to do it or how to. But the biggest thing to know is just that if you are the workshop presenter and you do want to bounce back and forth between groups, that would be something to maybe try playing with beforehand. But again, those settings, as long as you're the host, you'll be able to kind of bounce around. And that will just be, you'll see the little box that says breakout rooms next to where chat and reactions are at that bottom layer of this, or bottom bar at your screen. You'll see breakout rooms as an option. And when you click on that, you'll be able to see who is in which room. And then when you hover over, say, room 2, off to the right, when you hover over that title, you'll see join. And that's how you can just kind of bounce from every room to room.
Yeah, and you, the other thing that we can do is, Erin or I will be the host. And so when if you have to jump from room to room, you always have the ability to leave any room that you're in. And so you can just say, hey, I want to go to room 2. And we will put you in room 2. You'll get an invitation to do so. And then you can come back and say, okay, now I want to jump to room 4, or you can check in with us. Have there been any requests for help? So we can also manage that as the hosts. And as long as you're a co-host, we can put you anywhere, and then you can leave whenever you want and come back and join the main room, and then we can move you to a new space. So it kind of depends on how you want to manage that. Now, some people just want to let people go off and do their work, and then, excuse me, and then say, if you need help, I'm here, come back to the main room, or, ask for help or raise your hand. Depending on the version of Zoom you have, the ask for help is going to be in a different place. And depending on what your role is within the meeting, you may or may not have that. So just know that there is that option, and tell participants it's probably going to be somewhere on the bottom, but like I said, it's a little bit different. If you're using a different kind of device, it looks different too. So if somebody from the room can figure out how to ask for help, that's all that really matters.
And you can always remind participants I always remind participants of two things before we go into the breakout room. You can always leave and come back to the main room. So if you can't figure out how to ask for help, for example, you can send someone out, the equivalent of walking down a hallway. So you can always leave the room and come back to the main space, or if you wanted to try a different room, you can encourage people to kind of come back, let us know where you want to go next, and then we can reassign you. The other thing to know about breakout rooms, and to kind of mentally prepare yourself for, and to prepare your participants for, is if you have a large group and some people may have wandered away from their computer, or I've had some people kind of like, multitasking or walking on the treadmill and not really wanting to participate, but wanting to be there. I always mention to participants before I actually send them to a breakout room, if you've decided to step away from your computer or want to have your camera off, that's fine. If you end up in a breakout room with someone who is not actively participating, just come back to the room and we'll reassign you to a group that has active participants. So I always kind of give that warning that, if you're in a smaller breakout room and there's 2 empty chairs looking back at you, we want you to get the full capacity out of the workshop. So just come on back and we'll reassign you. So do leave a little bit of buffer time in your planning. I always say maybe 2.5 to 5 minutes max, just to make sure that people are in the room they need to be in with the group that is best going to facilitate their learning. So just build in that little bit of buffer space.
Mhm.
Is it only the host that can assign to a different room, or can the co-host do that as well? The
Co-host,
reason I'm asking is that if you're in a room because you're answering a question or something, you won't be in the main room to reassign someone that shows up.
right? That's why I would say let us be the hosts, and we'll manage all of that so that you can focus on delivering your content.
No, what I'm asking is, if you're the host, you
Mhm.
get called into a breakout room to solve an issue, someone from another breakout room comes back to the main room looking to get reassigned, will a co-host who probably should remain in that main room be able to reassign them to a breakout room?
Yes, so you can. So as a co-host, I can see who is assigned to which rooms. And we did have somebody either leave and come back or join while we were in that breakout room. And I got the little notification at the bottom of my screen that said, hey, we have an unassigned breakout room attendee. Do you want to assign them to a room? And I can do that. Now, the only difference is I can't talk to them to figure out, oh, I'm just here, I don't want to be in a breakout room, but I do have the ability to assign them and give them an invitation to join. They don't have to hit accept.
Okay,
So in a breakout room, I can see that.
right.
And
I
the
guess
thing
they
I
could
want-
communicate that in chat, but that might take a little bit longer. So
Yeah, the other thing, Dean, I think that the question is actually, I just want to reframe the question, because
yes.
my job and Erin's job as the hosts is to facilitate all of that background stuff. Unless somebody is having a technical issue, there is no reason that we should be going into those workshop breakout rooms. That is your job, because if people have questions, their questions are probably not about like, how do I raise my hand? Their questions are probably about, in step number 3 that you gave us, I don't understand what the like you meant by this word,
Okay.
right? So the workshop leader would be the person who's going to jump from room to room, not
Not the
us. We
host.
can stay in the
Okay.
main room the whole time.
All right.
So then we
Gotcha.
don't really need to worry too much about that scenario.
Yeah, I'm just thinking it from the co-host tech
Mhm.
point of view. So, okay, great.
Okay, so now I just want to show you what it's like to do breakout rooms where you can pick. Now, the other thing that, oh wait, maybe there's, okay, And every time you update Zoom, they have new settings. So just make sure you have, again, the newest version of Zoom. I had to dig around and try to find the setting that I was looking for. I thought it had disappeared, but it didn't. So that's great. The other thing that you can do that you want to let us know about is how long you want the breakout rooms to be open. If you know in the beginning, I want it to be open for the first breakout room is going to be open for 10 minutes. The second breakout room is going to be open for 3 minutes. The third breakout room is going to be open for 4 minutes. Tell us all of that stuff. And then we can actually set that in the settings beforehand, and it'll automatically have a little countdown timer on the top. So I'm going to do that right now. And just so you can see what that looks like and what that feels like. Now, the thing that used to be true, and we'll see if this still is true, we're going to do a little experiment, is that if I set it to close after 2 minutes, then you still get a 60-second warning or a 30-second warning or a 10-second warning. You still get a warning after that. So I think you'll have a total of 2 minutes and 30 seconds. Let's see what happens. Okay. So actually, I'm gonna make it even shorter. I'm gonna do 1 minute and 30 seconds, 1 minute and 10 seconds. So the breakout rooms will automatically close after 1 minute. And then what that does when it says close is it means it'll give you the warning saying the breakout room is about to close, and it should give you a countdown timer for 10 seconds.
And then in addition to time warnings, you can also broadcast a message to all breakout rooms. So for example, if you wanted to let participants know, okay, it's been 2 minutes out of your 5, we need you to switch participants. I'll send you a little message in this short breakout room that will be in here just to let you see what that notification looks like, because it's not going to appear in your chat. It's going to appear, if you have the most updated version of Zoom, it should appear more towards the top of your screen. So look out for some of those cues as you're in your breakout rooms.
And I did send one in the last one that said, did you find the way to ask for help? And it looks like we have one question before we go into the breakout rooms. Rebecca, did you have a question?
Yes. Are we going to be given instructions on, I guess, when to give warnings about time limits or?
You let us know when you like. So ideally, you'll tell us in advance, okay, I'm going to have participants going into breakout rooms 3 times during the workshop. The first room will be for 5 minutes. The second room will be for 2 minutes. The third room will be for 20 minutes. And then, and you can let us know, can give time warnings. People will have 5 minutes each. Let them know when to switch, and we can broadcast that for you.
I'm sorry, I should have specified. I'm not going to be a presenter. I'm signed up to be a co-host. And so you're saying that each presenter or workshop presenter or storyteller will give instructions to me on what they want to happen?
If you are a host for a performance, so you're like the MC of a performance, breakout rooms should not occur during a performance. So you don't have to worry about this at all. This is more just because we're doing both people who are MCs for performances and workshop leaders at the same workshop. So some of this stuff doesn't apply to everybody. So thank you for actually clarifying that, because I think that is an important distinction. And we're going to talk more, especially when we talk about spotlighting in a little bit, about the role of the host. And so this part is just like fun information then for you. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and open the rooms, and you should see 4 choices in front of you. You should get to choose which one you want. I don't care which one you pick. Just pick one and you get to go in a room. Are you in a pink mood today, a yellow mood, a green mood, or a blue mood?
I don't see those options.
You don't see the options. Let's see here. Did you get something that popped up on your screen that said breakout rooms?
No.
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 Hey, some of you aren't getting it. That's good to know.
I've got it.
Who did? Bruce?
Bruce, I've got one. Click on the box at the bottom between the 2 images. I'm going to the pink room. Yes.
Rooms?
Actually,
So there might be a box at the bottom. If you see a box at the bottom that says breakout rooms, click on that.
Mm-mm. If you click on the color, it doesn't do anything. But if you hover over the number, you then see join. So that.
Oh, okay, great. Yeah, click on the join. I'm going to keep them open for a minute just till everybody finds it. So
I don't have anything that says breakout room.
Me neither.
all right. This is
Oh, wait, there it is. I found it.
tell us where you found it, Barbara, before you leave us.
At the bottom of the screen,
Mm-hmm.
there's chat, share screen, record, breakout rooms.
Okay.
Mine doesn't have that.
How long has it been since you've updated your Zoom?
Oh, I just got into it when the pandemic started, and that's all I've ever done with it.
Okay, so you probably need to update your Zoom account, and that might be why you're not able to choose. I'm
How do
just
you
going
do
to
that?
assign people who are left. So I'm going to assign Barbara to pink and Sue to green and Nancy to yellow.
Okay.
You should have an invitation.
I broadcast my favorite flavor of ice cream, so we'll see how many people saw it by having them pop it in the chat later.
Awesome. All right. And I'm guessing, Janet, you did not need to go into a breakout room.
Nancy's in a room by herself. Oh no.
I saw the message pop up about the ice cream flavor. I'll go ahead and join yellow. Well, it's not letting me join yellow. Hmm.
Oh, some people missed the memo. Trout flavored. That is disgusting. Gross.
I saw it, but I didn't know there was going to be a test.
I decided that last second. Black raspberry chip. That is my favorite. Graters is the bonus flavor, but all around black raspberry chip. So some of you obviously saw that bar. You may not have had it long enough to really take a good look at it though. But did everyone get a chance to kind of experience those notifications? So you probably either saw a time notification or a message come through. So that's what it will look like to your participants. So if there are certain things that you want to have posted at a certain time, you can always give those to your technical host ahead of time. So if you want people to be in a 5-minute breakout room and at 2.5 minutes, you want them to have a specific message, you can always write that in advance and give it to one of us, and we'll take a look. We'll just keep an eye on the clock and post that right when you need it to post. So there you can be as specific or as open with this breakout room accessibility as you really need to. Yeah, another question. Go for it.
What I noticed, Erin, was I only saw the time remaining when I clicked back on the box. I was exploring, seeing if I could jump to another room, and I saw that I could, but I went ahead and stayed in the room that I was in. But I could only see that countdown when I had that open. It wasn't showing just in the room itself.
I can tell you why. Because because I was trying to just do it quick. And some people were having issues finding the breakout room question. We ended up running out of time before everybody got into the rooms. So I clicked a button that said, keep the rooms open a little bit longer. So if you decide in your workshop, you know what, there were too many tech glitches or like somebody needed to get off of their computer and uploads, upgrade, sorry, I was like, what's the word? Update their Zoom, then they came back and you're 3 minutes into a 15-minute work session, you may want, we can put them in, but you may also want to extend that window by a little bit of time. So if we need to extend it, we always can. It's just a matter of figuring out, what do you want and what works for you and your workshop timing.
I think Jay had a question. Jay?
Go ahead, Jay. And we also, in general, you want to keep yourself muted during the, whenever you're not speaking, especially for hosts of storytelling performances. And if so Erin and I are very good at managing when there's somebody who doesn't realize they're not muted. We will mute you. It may, though, limit your ability to unmute yourself. So sometimes we have to actually then say, please unmute yourself. So just be aware, it's better if you manage your own muting and unmuting rather than us having to do it. But there was somebody's phone who rang earlier, and there were two people who were unmuted, so I just went and muted them both just to make sure. So Jay, you may have been on the receiving end of that mute. So go ahead, Jay. What was your question?
That I didn't see where to get back to the main room when you were in your breakout room. And it may be in the 3 dots down at the bottom that it might be one of those things.
Down where right now where it says end, do you see the red end button or sorry, leave button? I'm sure it would probably be for you.
I see the mute button, yeah.
On the far, so the mute button is usually on the left-hand side. And then on the right-hand side, there should be something that says leave.
Yeah.
Okay, so that, when you click on that while right now, you would leave this meeting.
Okay.
If you click on that while you're in a meeting, you can leave the breakout room.
So if I'm in the breakout room, that's the button to click to go back to the main room.
Yes.
Okay, because I knew you got out of the meeting, but I didn't know. And
So
the other,
why don't
Be
we,
careful because depending on the device, it could have 2 options when you click it that says leave meeting or leave
Okay.
room. So just be careful that you select leave room instead of leave the whole meeting, or else you'll come back in to the main room, which both would accomplish the same thing, but you probably don't want to leave the whole meeting.
The only thing I'd mention is I was trying to unmute myself by pushing on the red microphone up by my name. And of course I have to remember to go down to the bottom of the screen and push unmute instead.
yeah, you can't push it by your name, but what you can do, when you go to your picture, if you hover over the picture, you should have a button that appears up in the upper right-hand corner that says mute or unmute.
Oh yeah, okay.
So it's not right by your name, but it's up in the far right corner.
Yeah, I see it. Thank you.
Now, so the question just came up about leaving the room. So I'm just going to give you a chance. I'm going to open a whole new breakout room. And all I want you to do is go into the room and then leave. Okay. And so find that leave button and come back to the main room. Here we go. So you should have an invitation that pops up on your screen. If
Hello?
Ever experience like
all right, I'm just going to go ahead and close the room. So we have 2 people who are still trying to figure it out, but I'm going to let them just join us again. So I hope that answers your question about how to leave a room. All right.
One of the things that that happened when I was in there, and I'm pretty, I guess, experienced in using breakout rooms, but make sure you don't have another window or a screen that's open that's covering that button. So I was in there a lot longer because I knew where the button should be and I couldn't see it.
That's a great bit of advice. All right. Any questions about breakout rooms before we continue? I know that it's a big concern and it's a really great way to engage in small group or partner work. And we just want to make sure that any workshop leaders know how to do that, or at least know what the functionality is.
Sorry, I just wondered if we could test that ability to record in the breakout room before we ended this session.
I forgot that we were going to do that last time. I apologize. Sure, go ahead into your breakout rooms.
Well, so I think the last time that we touched base on it is it said that we needed to ask the host for permission. I am co-host, so I can't tell in the main room if I have that ability to change that setting. It may be a setting that has to be done before the meeting starts, because it's a more finite and situational.
Yeah, so go into your room and try to request permission to record and see what happens. Let's see if I can do it or if it needs to be background.
Hello? Hi, Charlotte. Hi, Ingrid. Hi, Karen.
Hi, Janet.
And my dog, her name is Diva. Yeah, she's a diva. She loves Zoom.
I'm going to ask to record just to test this, see how it
Okay.
Mhm.
Okay. How did you do it?
I went
Just
down and
click.
clicked on record. A message comes up saying I have to ask permission. And I did that, but nothing else happened.
Well, looks like we're getting ready to leave.
Bye, all.
Bye, y'all.
All right. We discover things when we play. So here's what we discovered. It is a setting that has to happen on the back end. It's something that I cannot control and Erin cannot control during the meeting. So if you want participants to be able to record themselves in breakout rooms, you need to make that request of Janet when you send all your tech details, because we cannot do anything about it once we are in the meeting. It has to be a back end setting. It's going to be very rare that anybody would need to record inside the breakout rooms. Most of the time we're doing, brand new work. We're like trying something out. We're having conversations, but if it is something that you want people to have the ability to do, make sure you make that request of Janet.
And if you really run into, oh shoot, I didn't enable that request, you can always tell people that they could set their phone up and record it with permission from the other person, or if it's just on them, they may not need to get permission. So there are ways to work around that. If it suddenly becomes part of your workshop, you can always tell people that they could set their phone up or another camera, as long as it won't take away too much time of the workshop.
And the other thing we could do is make one person in each room a co-host. And that person would have the ability to record. But however, that recording that person makes would go onto their computer. So then it would be that person's responsibility to email it to the others or figure out how to share that. So just know that it's a bit of a headache if you're going to have people recording in breakout rooms. It's best not to do it. If it really is essential for your workshop, talk to Janet.
Anything is possible.
Well,
kind of.
Most things are possible with Zoom. Some there's a good number of things that are possible with Zoom.
Yes. Yeah.
All right. I think we should move on
to
spotlighting.
Spotlighting is super fun. It can sometimes feel overwhelming to manage, but that's why we have tech people. So Katie and I are probably spotlighted for you right now. We're probably bigger than everyone else on your screen, especially, oh, now I'm by myself.
I removed my spotlight, sorry.
That's a great example though, Katie. So especially if you have the latest version of Zoom, which we cannot stress this enough, please update your Zoom. You can do that via your, I am so big. Normally a lady doesn't like to hear that, but in this case, I'm pumped. So I should be taking up most of your screen. And this is probably the way that you're gonna want things to function, especially during a performance, or if you're in a workshop and you're doing practice runs with people and you want them to feel like they are center stage. This is something that we can help you do so that people have the limelight, just to kind of experience what it's like to be front and center. So you can use Spotlight to your advantage. You'll probably want to use it, especially if you're doing something where you have kind of a presentation part of it and you don't necessarily just want to see everyone's boxes. Or like I said, if you're doing a showcase or an event where you want to highlight whoever is talking. Now there is always that presenter mode. So I'm trying to pay attention to chat too. I love that quote. We are larger than our smaller pair of pants. Love it. So you can always have it on speaker view, which basically detects anyone who is talking. So anyone who is making noise will be that front and center person. However, the downside to that is, especially if you have unmuting enabled, if somebody's phone rings, for example, they will take over the screen mid-presentation. So spotlighting is a great way to ensure that no matter who else is making noise, the one who needs to be spotlighted is spotlighted. Now, keep in mind something that's very important to keep in mind, especially if you haven't upgraded your Zoom account, it is possible that you won't see yourself spotlighted. So it may not appear as though you are front and center, but trust us, you will be. We will make sure that you are. So as you're talking, just trust that you are big on everybody else's screens, especially if you're dealing with spotlighting and screen sharing, which we'll get to in a little bit. It may feel a little bit weird. but in terms of what you're seeing, but I promise it looks smooth on our end. So just trust your techies. We've got your back, and know that you are being seen, especially if you have your camera on. Even if you are a little box, someone can see you. That's just a general good tip to remember. So definitely update your Zoom account if you haven't already, especially right before the festival starts. And the other thing that can be really helpful for spotlighting for the techies is to have that order ahead of time. So if you're doing a showcase, for example, and you have a particular order, I would definitely send that to the tech person in advance so that we know who to look for next. Yes, we can search for names mid-performance, but it's a lot easier for us if we know and can have the next person ready. And so if you are a host and you are introducing each teller in between their stories, for example, we will spotlight you in between each person. So as soon as that storyteller is done, we'll give it a little bit of a reasonable pause, and then we'll bring that spotlight back to you so that you can introduce the next storyteller. So as soon as that storyteller ends, just go ahead and start talking, not like right over top of their ending. Give it a breath as you normally would during a show. And then by that point, we probably already spotlighted you, and you can go ahead and start introducing the next person. Does that make sense? Feel okay? And then as soon as you're done, we'll spotlight the next teller, and we'll tell them the same thing in their brief rehearsal right before. Just go ahead and start talking. There's no need to say, hey, am I on screen? Can you see me? Can you hear me? We'll make sure you're unmuted. We'll make sure that everybody can see you. Just keep an eye out for that little question box that might pop up that says the host is asking you to unmute yourself. Because if you're not unmuted within the first couple seconds that we're going to spotlight you, we will probably request that you do it just to make sure that we know that you're ready. So there's some small tech things that we might do just to remind ourselves, okay, they know they're up next, we're good, we'll spotlight and roll. So it sounds chaotic, but it's really not. Just do your thing, get into your flow, know that you're about to introduce the next storyteller, we've got the rest.
So Erin, let's do a little demo for them. Let's pretend like I'm the host and
Okay.
I'm going to introduce various storytellers, and you can all, if you put your screen on speaker view. So Erin's going to be the background person, and I would be the person who's introducing the storytellers. Now, as the person who's introducing storytellers, I probably want to have everybody on gallery view. Now, if Erin, does that mess up what you're seeing if I do gallery view? Okay, great. So Erin's probably got me spotlighted right now. So if anybody is looking at speaker view, they are seeing me, and I'm saying, "Oh my goodness, I can't wait to introduce to you this fabulous storyteller. Ingrid Knutson is from Alaska, but she's lived all over the place, really. I mean, she does tours down in South America, and you just got to give it up for the amazing Ingrid Knutson." And then I would say, "Welcome, Ingrid Knutson." And we actually have a phrase. What's your phrase, Janet? Did you tell me there was a specific phrase?
And now we welcome and fill in the blank name to the stage, or some close variation.
Okay, so hosts, MCs, make sure you're writing that down. Okay, so and now we welcome Ingrid Knutson to the stage, and then Erin would spotlight her.
And there's Ingrid. Yay!
And then what can happen at the end of the show is, especially if the host and the storyteller ends up going back and forth a little bit, I might just go ahead and add the host to it. And then once they finish up, then I can kick Ingrid out. Bye.
Oh, thank you so much, Ingrid. Oh, that was wonderful. And now I'm going to introduce our next storyteller. A lot of really great information about Charlotte. I'm going to talk on how great Charlotte is. And then I say, and now, please help me welcome to the stage, Charlotte Ivy. And you see how Charlotte pops up. She would unmute herself.
Good morning.
Her story.
Wonderful to be here.
Glad to have you.
Thank you so much, Charlotte. Then we continue on our way. Okay. So as the host, I want to make sure, as the MC, I want to make sure that I introduce the person. And this is something I didn't do this last time because this was just, play. But normally I would introduce the person, and then the very next thing I would do would be to mute myself. Because I don't know if some of you heard that little bit of feedback that happened. That's one of those things we have to be really careful about. So as soon as you're done introducing the person, mute yourself. And if you're even doing a little back and forth of talking with them, or you're doing any kind of an interview thing, make sure that you mute and unmute yourself as you go back and forth, just to be safe. Okay, and then just keep your finger hovering over that mute button.
Do you guys have any questions about spotlights? And you'll see that you can have 2 side by side. You can even have 3 or 4. So depending on how many people you need to have spotlighted at one time, you could certainly do that. But again, that's only accessible if you upgrade your Zoom. So make sure that that's up to date. Oh, hello, everybody. We've got some extra special guests with us here today.
So I just wanted to show what it would look like if you spotlighted more than one person. Okay, so if somebody has not updated their Zoom, they will not see this though. They will only see the person talking. But we can add more people as we go, you know. And so at the end of the show, we can spotlight all of the performers, and everybody can do their like final bow, you know, thank you so much as the host is talking, etc. So it's just a fun thing to do at the end of the show.
I have a question.
Okay.
If I am doing a workshop and I have saved some time at the end of it for questions and answers, if I have a small enough group, is it possible to spotlight people asking their questions so that it doesn't just come up on the chat?
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, okay. I just wanted to be sure about that. Thank you.
Yeah, and when we're doing, you're talking about like for a workshop?
Yes, I'm doing a workshop. Yes.
Yeah. So for the workshops, I think if somebody has a question, we will either just take off the spotlight on the person who's presenting so that it automatically goes to speaker view. And then anybody who's asking the question or talking will be featured. Or we will spotlight both of you next to each other if it's going to be a longer conversation. So we'll kind of play and see what makes sense.
I just like to see faces, you know, for a workshop. Thank you.
If you are a workshop leader, I suggest that you always keep, unless you're sharing your screen, and even then, that you keep it in gallery view, because then you can see all of your participants and you can get a sense of, you know, their reactions and their responses. If nothing else, you can see their faces. And then you can also do interactive things where you ask everybody to put your hands to the right and to the left and, you know, like play little games with them and stuff if you like, if that's part of your thing for your workshop. All right, so I'm going to do something quick, which is just to demonstrate another thing that you can do in a workshop. You could even do this in a performance if you want, if somebody wants to have some kind of a fun interactive thing. This could be a thing that you would decide as a host, or a thing that somebody maybe wants to know for a story. Like, you know, I'm going to keep picking on you, Ingrid, just because I know so many of your stories. If you're asking, have any of you seen how many of you have seen a dolphin in person? Right. And then people you could raise hands like this in here, or you can also do a poll. But we need to know the details of the poll before your session begins. We can, like Erin and I do not have the capacity to edit a poll during your workshop. So the only thing I can do is launch a pre-existing poll. I can't even change the options in it. So you need to really know what are you going to be asking and know that it won't change. But I'll give you a sense of what a poll looks like. It's just a way for people to answer question. So this poll is pick an animal you like. Go ahead and vote for an animal. And as this is happening, I see the results in real time. Now, Erin, you are a co-host. Are you also seeing the results in real time? Okay, so all your co-hosts.
Come on, cows are cute. Nobody likes cows. Panda needs a little bit more love here too. Snake.
Somebody likes cows. All right, so oh man, we are at a dead heat for cat and dog people though.
Only you can see the results.
Yes, exactly. You won't see them yet. So
co-host can also see the results.
As a co-host, I can't vote.
Oh, okay. And that should be normal. Yeah, co-hosts should not be voting. You would assume that they would be people who are participating in the workshop and that they wouldn't be co-hosts. So, all right, so I'm going to go ahead. If you haven't, it looks like everybody has voted and I can see how many people have voted and I can see the percentage that is, and then I can see the results. Now, I'm going to go ahead and end the poll. And then I can either just keep that for myself and my own information and say, oh, wow, that knowing that we have a lot of dog and cat lovers in this group is really helpful for the next thing I was going to do in my workshop, because that's super related to storytelling. And then I can share the results with you as well. Do you all see that now? So you can see we do not have any love, or we have very little love for cows and pandas. Pandas, I'm especially surprised by. I was thinking we'd have more panda love, and we can talk about this.
I can't have coffee without cows, so I don't know what y'all are thinking.
And
Drink
I
black coffee for the rest of your lives.
I told you there'd be some would choose snake.
So then we can have a discussion based on our poll. And then I just stop sharing whenever I'm done. So it's a really cool way to get some feedback from your audience or get a sense of where they are, what their experiences have been. But again, we need to know that, or Janet needs to know that in advance. That's not something we can just create on the fly. Any questions about polls?
Here.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Erin.
Yep. Was there a question?
Yeah, go ahead. Rebecca.
Yeah, it's not a poll question. It actually, and Janet may have answered it in the chat, but what time do how soon before the sessions do the doors open to the audience?
10
That's
minutes?
10 minutes.
Okay.
Is it the 10 minutes before? Okay.
So figure that into our prep time. The last 10 minutes of prep time, no, you will not. Hopefully you'll have figured everything out.
Okay.
And how soon should they all be logging into their session before start time?
For workshops, we figure only 30 minutes is needed because there's basically 2 people plus the tech people.
Yep.
And so we should be able to be pretty focused and able to review any plans at the last minute.
Okay.
Or just review plans, not change at the last minute.
Janet, are you saying that is 30 minutes before we open to the public, or you're saying that's 30 minutes before the time of the workshop?
30 minutes before the event begins.
Okay. Thank you.
And that leaves you 20 minutes to do audio, lighting, video checks and everything like that, plus anything to just remind Katie or Erin, who's your host, what we're planning to do.
Mm-hmm. And that time will be very simple. I mean, we'll welcome you.
Turned in?
I believe the email said March 1st. So you've got 2 days. So hurry up and get your workshop planned.
And if you decide, the week before or something that you do want to have a poll, it would be far better to send that in advance than get into the tech rehearsal and say, oh, by the way, can I still add a poll? Because by then it will be way too late. So if there is suddenly this bright burst of energy at 2 o'clock in the morning, you decide, I should have a poll, please email us as soon as you have that idea, or email Janet so that she can get that set up in the Zoom beforehand. And keep in mind that you also cannot change those options again. So if you need to change anything, but try to have that solidified when you send the rest of your materials. But if you have a sudden aha moment, just make sure we have those before tech rehearsal begins.
I have another question too regarding spotlighting anyone during the question and answer session. I think it maybe was Barbara that said she would want that person spotlighted. Please forgive my smoke detector in the background chirping. Is it, how am I asking this? Will the audience know that by registering they are granting permission to be recorded, or should that be announced before each session?
I believe when I registered, I saw it on there, but I've registered for so many things lately that they're kind of blurring together. Janet, was that something that was on the initial registration form that people would be recorded?
Yes, but workshops are not being recorded because we know your proprietary information is being shared, and you may not want to be sharing every person that might see it on YouTube. I mean, this workshops you have to either attend live or you're going to miss it.
Cool.
Awesome.
Was there a second part? So then was there a second part to your question, Rebecca, or did that answer all of it?
Seems like I did have another question that I forgot, but that was all of it for now. If I think of the other one, I'll come back.
All right, let us know. Okay, so let's move on to using the chat.
Yes, so we have all been taking advantage of the chat today. It's a great way to keep audience members engaged and ask fun little questions, especially in some of those lag times, or if you're waiting for people to come back from breakout rooms. For example, if they're closing in 2 minutes, but you've got some people in the main room kind of ready to participate, you can always say, "All right, toss your thoughts." Toss your thoughts into the chat. I need some more coffee. I'm just going to chug this real quick. You can always ask people for feedback real quick in the chat, or put some thoughts about what your experience was like, or, share your experience with 3 words or less. There are ways that you can engage people as there's kind of some lag time, or just as a core part of how you're sharing your developed content. So you can always use the chat to your advantage. You can also completely turn the chat off. So if you really want people to just be present with you in the workshop and not be paying attention to the chat, or not be attempting to have other conversations in the chat, you can have those settings arranged ahead of time. But that is something that, again, you will have to have arranged ahead of time. So before the call starts, you'll have to let us know whether or not you want that chat enabled. We can also change the settings so that only co-hosts or hosts, for example, can private message people, or you can enable people to private message each other. I wouldn't recommend that. There really should be no side conversations happening unless it's in breakout rooms. You don't want to lose people by enabling too much freedom. We can be like middle schoolers sometimes and wander down other paths. So keep in mind where you want people's attention to be. And if you want to enable chat but have it just be everyone, I would always recommend it just as a way to kind of check in with people, but keep everybody's attention in the main room. The other thing is, if you are performing and you don't want to see that chat, and again, you can decide whether or not, and this would be primarily for festival facilitators, but if you don't want people to be able to spam the chat while a teller is telling, we can arrange for that ahead of time. But if you're a teller and the chat is enabled and you have that little red notification at the bottom of your screen that keeps popping up, open the chat and then drag your entire window to the right to make that chat disappear. So I am looking a little bit more to the right now because I'm looking at myself, which is on the right, and my screen is all the way to the right, but I don't see the chat. So that won't be as distracting to me when I'm telling a story, and you'll be spotlighted, so you'll be a little bit bigger on your own screen. But that's always something that you can do. And then you can also enable people to private chat you. So if they have a question that they don't necessarily need to share with the whole group, that's accessible to you. So just keep in mind as you're planning whether you have a preference of communicating in the chat or not, and how you could use that to your advantage. Fun questions and little check-ins are always really, really easy to do. Does anybody have questions about the chat specifically?
Yes, I do. I heard you saying that you could set it where co-hosts could chat with individuals, but if the presenter wants chat turned off for the audience, will you have it where co-hosts and hosts can still chat with each other without it going to the audience?
I believe you can do that. It would be a back-end setting, so we'd have to do that ahead of time. But I believe, if I'm remembering correctly, Katie, please back me up on this, that there's an option for participants can chat or just co-hosts and hosts. So you can specify who is able to chat back and forth.
Yeah, if you don't want people being able to chat during, I would just send your chat preferences to Janet as well. So tell her, do you want people to be able to chat one-on-one to each other, or only to the whole group? And now the one thing, so people go 2 different ways with performances and whether or not chat should be enabled. chat is really nice to have and in performances because you can give the tellers specific feedback right away on how great their story was. You can say, you know, oh, I loved your imagery, or you know, this the voice of your father sounded just like him. I remember meeting him 10 years ago, or what, I mean, whatever, right? But people love to give feedback. And because we don't have that big rush of applause and that time when we all are together or like leap to our feet in a standing ovation, we can't really do that. So having the chat enabled gives people as an audience member a chance to interact with you and send you appreciations. We can, hosts for performances can make the request that people wait until a story is done to chat, because some people do find it really distracting. But I always like having it on for performances, but I know some people really hate it. So if you are just somebody who's like, I don't want to manage the chat, I have to deal with all these performers already, just turn it off. Just let Janet know that. But I always encourage to leave it on for performances. We have 2 questions in the chat here too. Janet, are there going to be any webinars, or are they all going to be meetings? You're muted.
It's all meetings. It's all Zoom meetings, because last fall we tried using webinars and it wasn't as successful as we'd hoped.
There's definitely a learning curve with webinars. Okay, so that's, does that answer your question, Paul? Okay. And then, and Sue brings up a good point. Make sure that when you are using the chat, you check on who it's going to. So everybody go down to the chat window right now, and you'll see a blue box, and it'll either say everyone, or it'll say the name of an individual person who has already sent you an individual message. Click on that and try sending a message to either one specific person just to say hi or whatever, or to everyone. Just make sure that it goes to the right place. Just for fun. Because if you know how to do it, you can describe to others how to do it. So Paul sent me a private message that said, howdy. All right, great, Paul, thank you. And I'll let you keep working on that while we move on to the next topic, which is screen sharing. Oh, I'm sorry, Sue, did you have another question about chat, or was that, did that answer your question?
Well, I just wanted to point out that when watching a concert, everyone's sending accolades and you're just doing it. And that's what I was going to say is somebody who sent you a personal message and you didn't even know it because you weren't paying attention. And then you start typing, oh my gosh, that was the best story ever, to who you think is everyone. It's actually going to go to the person who actually sent that message to you before. So you didn't do anything. So my brain was going, oh yeah, this is going to everyone. And it's not. And then that person says, hey, I'm getting a lot of messages and I'm not sure why, because I'm not whoever. So I do that all the time. So I have to be careful. I just wanted you all to know.
And the thing to keep in mind there is if you are sending a direct message, you'll always see letters on the right that are written in red, direct message. So if you hit send and you realize, oops, that was supposed to go to everyone, not to just that one person, I can guarantee, Sue, you are not the only person on this call who has ever done that. Then all you need to do is just quickly copy your message, make it go to, click everyone, and then paste it again. That person usually gets, oh, I don't have to tell you that you didn't send it to everyone because you understand that now. But that is a polite Zoom etiquette thing to do, is to say, did you mean to send that to Ingrid rather than just me? That thing about the booger hanging out of my nose, whatever. I mean, I don't know why Ingrid would care, but like I said, I'm just going to pick on you today. I'm sorry, Ingrid. Okay, so let's talk about screen sharing. I'm going to show you a little bit of the back end stuff, but I'm going to, and part of this, I'm going to show you what not to do. Okay, so I'm going to share my screen. And I'm just going to share my desktop. Now, when you screen share, if you are planning to have like a PowerPoint presentation or something, you will need to make sure that that's pulled up and ready to go. And ideally, you won't share your whole desktop like I'm doing right now. You will share just your PowerPoint presentation or just the video you're about to share. Because right now, you're all seeing me, seeing you on Zoom, right? Now, you'll also watch me as I start to navigate through a bunch of stuff, and you'll go, wow, that looks really clunky. And that's not very professional. And I don't want to do that during my workshop. Okay, so like right now, I'm now to my my Google Drive, which is what I want to bring you to. So I'm going to demonstrate a few different things. So first of all, if I want to do a PowerPoint, this is my PowerPoint, and you always want to get it to present as quickly as possible. So this is something that I created a while ago, and I just use the PowerPoint just like I normally would. I use the arrow keys on my computer to just click through my PowerPoint, right? So this is a PowerPoint I made for my for a class I was doing with 4th and 5th graders. Okay, so that's that. Now I'm trying to stop sharing that, but look, I haven't stopped sharing my screen yet, so you can still see this. The other thing that we said we wanted to talk about was, so just be aware, as soon as you're done with this, you want to go to the top of your screen where it says stop share, and stop sharing immediately when you're done. The other thing is this is my Google Drive, and you can see all of my fancy things that I have in here. And so if I want to make a Google Doc that I'm going to use for handouts, you saw how I went up to new in the corner and just said Google Doc. So now I'm going to say like workshop handouts. And then I just plug a bunch of stuff in here, blah, blah, blah. Okay, I make my pretty handout. And then I go up here to share. And I do have to name it. It'll automatically name whatever's on the top line. I'll say, yes, please do that. Say, give it a name. All right, so right now, this is only private to me. So you can either share it with specific people, or you can share it with groups. I almost always do this bottom one where it says get link. And see how right now it's restricted. Only people added can open with the link, which means I have to put their email address up here in order to get them to be able to come onto my document. So I'm going to click down here where it says change to anyone with the link. It'll give you these little help boxes if you need it. So now I have anyone with the link, and I can click on this and I can change this either restricted or anyone with a link. If you're a member of a group, you might have another option in there as well. But then the important part is that, so you get that part, and then you go over here to viewer and you decide what you want them to be able to do. If it is a handout, I suggest you leave it on viewer. That means that they can look at it. Anyone who has a link can look at it. So they get the private link from you, they can look at it. If you put it to commenter, that means that they can comment on your document. They can suggest changes to things, and they can just generally they can make changes. You will ultimately have to approve them, but then you'd want to make sure that you aren't going to have somebody who's going to spam your document. The nice thing about commenters is that they are a way to let people share ideas without giving them full control. The thing you want to use as rarely as possible, and only with people that you trust with every fiber of your being, to make editors. I make Erin an editor with a lot of things that I do because I know that she and I are on the same page, right? I know that she knows how to use Google Documents, and that if I send her this really fancy handout that I've made, she is not going to accidentally delete everything on that page. If somebody that you give this permission to does not know how to use Google Docs, they have the ability to delete everything in your document. So if you're doing a handout, do not give them the chance to be an editor. If you do want to do something interactive during your workshop where everybody's on, the same Google Doc, you can make them commenters, or you can make them editors depending on what makes sense. But just make sure that you're choosing those ideas wisely. Okay. So I'm going to stop sharing for a second to just see if anyone has any questions about that stuff that I was just going over.
So I just had this thought. If someone, and I'm not a presenter, let me say that, but just throwing an idea out there, asking if it works. If someone did at the last minute want to do a poll, as I understand, I think you can create one on Google, and so they would be able to use what you just did and gather their own data, correct? If they just needed to do it at the last minute.
Yeah, I would recommend using a Google form for that. But yes. The problem that I've come up against is that Google Forms don't load they're not instantaneous. So if like Erin is in Ohio, and when she submits her Google form, there's a lot of wires that it needs to go through and a lot of places it bumps around before it comes to me. So I don't necessarily get it right away. It might be a 5 to 10 minute delay before I actually see the results of what she wrote. All right, go ahead, Ingrid.
Yeah, so when you showed, going to your PowerPoint and you said, this is the clunky way to go.
Yep.
Can you show the smoothest way to go?
Okay, let me hang on. So what I would do, let's see.
And how to facilitate this, I was going to toss this in as an idea too, is we mentioned earlier of closing down as many screens as possible, that any windows that you don't need before you get on to present, go ahead and close them. The other reason for this being that it will be far easier for you when you go to share your screen of finding exactly what you need. So just keep that in mind too.
All right, so I can't share with you the way I'm sharing my screen because I can't share those settings with you. But basically what I do is instead of, when I click on the share screen button, instead of going to my desktop and sharing my whole desktop, I can share a specific tab or window or program that I have open. So so I'm going to make it a little less clunky by going right to a specific tab. So if I share this and then see, and like I said, it becomes a little less clunky, but maybe not as unclunky as I would like, because then, I mean, my windows, my list of seeing you or my pictures of you are all popping up. So they were actually covering my share button. Oh, that's not what I meant to push though. Sorry. My present button is what I needed. I would have been just fine. So if you can click that present button real fast, you can jump right into it and then you go right through your thing and then you just click stop share at the end. So hopefully that was a little bit less clunky. If you have any,
it's going to be a little bit clunky just because we are starting to see your computer screen. So there will be a little bit of lag. I think most people are used to that. So don't feel too stressed about trying to make it as smooth as possible because it's just the nature of the action.
Yeah, but the biggest thing is just to have it open and ready to go. Because I don't know if you've ever been in a workshop where somebody's like, oh, and now I'm going to share my screen and I got to open PowerPoint, and it is painful. Even if it's only 30 seconds, it is painful to watch. So just, have your things ready and open. The other thing I was going to say is if you need to share videos, is there anybody who will be sharing a video during a workshop? No, awesome. Then we don't need to talk about it. Yay. Okay. We are at time right now. And I know Erin has another appointment right away. I could stick around for a couple minutes if we have any more like last minute questions, but I feel like we have covered almost everything you could need to know for a workshop, but there's always questions, right? So go ahead, Sue.
The biggest thing before we head into the question and answer, please send in your information about your workshop. We need all those details as soon as possible so we can have it be as smooth as possible for you. So make sure that you let your tech people know ahead of time or let Janet know so she can let the tech people know and then try to hit that March 1st deadline if you can, which I believe is Monday. So it's coming up quickly, but hopefully you now have some really helpful tools. And remember that you can always make an activity accessible. Even if it's, I need to run a meditation with people, you can ask them to turn off their video, allow them to lay down on the ground elsewhere. There are so many things you can do on this platform. It's just going to feel a little bit different, but that's okay. So I implore you to kind of explore your options, get creative, and really make this a unique experience. If there's ever an opportunity for people to get up and move and walk around, Zoom exhaustion is a thing. So use that to your advantage and try to get creative with your content. So.
Yeah, go ahead, Sue. You had a question?
Yes, ma'am. Elizabeth Beeman is going to be doing the workshop for the youth, and we'll have a lot of adults. Something she brought up when we were planning is she would love to give away some kits, some puppet kits, which is a great way to draw people into the concert. So I'll make a poster, but we were trying to problem solve, well, how are we going to do that? And you all may have better ideas, but I said, well, why don't we find out how many participants we have? And then I would ask Elizabeth then, the participants would have to send me either their email or their name and phone number, some way I can have contact with them. And only to me, not to Elizabeth. And then I would ask Elizabeth, choose 3 numbers from 1 to, say there's 66 participants, 1 to 66. And those 3 numbers would then be the winners. um, based on the people who wanted to participate and gave me their name or phone number, something where I can contact them. Is that, number one, legal? Is that the best way to do it? Or do you have another suggestion?
All right, I can't speak to the legality of anything. That is for you to talk about with your lawyers. I don't know any of the laws in Texas. But I would say that if you are planning to do a random drawing, you should be able to get a list of the participants from Janet or, like shortly before the workshop begins. There's a great tool online that you can use. If you just search randomizer, you can choose just one person from, like, you can put in everybody's names and then you just hit randomize and it'll give you a random spit out of the names, and you can either, hit it once and take the top name and then hit a second time and take the top name, or you can just hit it once and take the top 3 names. Or you can have it draw just one name at a time. So you pick how you want it to do it, but there's free internet randomizers, which is probably a really easy way to do that. And you should be able to get names from Janet. And if you're connected with the Texas Storytelling Festival, I'm guessing that she'd be willing to give you the contact information to get that to the people as well. Then you don't have to deal with managing all of that stuff back and forth of, wait, you need to give me your name and your email. Like that's a lot of hassle. So I think what I would do is in the beginning of the workshop is to say, if you don't want to be entered in the prize drawing, if you're not interested, when we call your name, just say you're not interested and we'll choose another name, right? That's a really easy way to do it. That's probably the easiest way to do it. Anything else you want to say about that, Erin?
Nope, that's it.
Okay.
Thank you.
Well, yeah, you're welcome. Thank you, everyone. If you have another question, I can stick around for a couple minutes, but I know Erin has to go. So thank you all. Is there anybody who is planning to stick around for one more question? Paul? Okay.
Thank you so much. I do have to run. I deeply apologize, but it's so great to see all of your faces, and I'll look forward to seeing you at the festival. Again, there's nothing we can't handle together. So best of luck. Make sure you hit that March 1st deadline, pretty please, and we'll be seeing you again soon.
Yay.
Thanks, Katie, for sticking around.
Okay, go ahead, Paul.
Katie, we're looking at doing a workshop that's very interactive, lots of...
Can you either turn your volume up or come closer to your mic, please? I'm having trouble hearing.
Sure. Let me make sure I'm using the right mic. Oh, that's weird. Maybe I got turned down. How very strange. I usually don't get, hey, you're too quiet. I usually get the other thing. Shut up. That's usually, yeah, it's my wife saying that right now. Anyway, we do a lot of interactive things, and the workshop's on creativity, so we're looking at getting a lot of feedback. We've been assuming it was a webinar. As we saw all the workshops last year. So now we're rethinking, oh, well, we would just want to be able to open it up and get feedback from people as we go and get them to, basically we're going to teach them, give them tools and give them permission to create stories from stories they know and just rewrite them the way they want and not have any restrictions. So there's a lot of expectation of interaction. We had been planning to promote a few people to the dais in the webinar. But now it sounds like we can open the floor up to anybody who wants to participate.
Yep.
Is there any problem with jumping people in and having them parallel with us? There's a couple of things where we'll interview them and ask them questions to create the story, and then go from there.
Yeah, so there's 2 different tools that come to mind. One is just to use a gallery view. I actually did a movement-based workshop for Timpanogos. And so I had my group of people here that I would normally have spread out in, a giant room in a workshop place. And so I'm saying, all right, so, you could stay on camera, you can turn your camera off if you're not comfortable. We're going to float now, and I would demonstrate floating, and I would turn my camera off and let them float for a little bit. So we can do those things, right? So that's one option. And then the other thing is we're in a meeting. So basically there's equality. It's not quite as great as like a circle, but anybody who you choose to have, be spotlighted can be spotlighted. Anybody you want to talk to or interact with, you can talk to or interact with. Unlike, a workshop and a webinar is really hard. I would only ever recommend doing a webinar for maybe a panel discussion, but workshops especially if they're going to be interactive, it's going to be very difficult to do that in a webinar format. So I think that was a good choice to move to meetings.
I think so too. I think it's going to help us get the kind of reaction from the audience we want. We're going to do brainstorming and then generate stories from that. So, oh yeah, this is what I'm looking for right here. So this will be perfect.
Okay.
Because I could say, hey, I'm going to teach you this tool called the Story Spine. And what I want you to do is just answer some questions for me. Once upon a time, there was a guy named.
Okay, now here's the thing. If you wanted to do with, do you want everybody to answer all at once, or do you want just one person? Okay, so if you and I are together, okay, gotcha. So then I would say Billy Bob.
Billy Bob. And every day Billy Bob would get up and go fishing. He'd go down to the lake. He'd have a nice walk down there. He'd carry a 6-pack of beer. He'd have his rod and all his food. And he'd go fishing for what?
Turtles.
Turtles! Until one day Billy Bob got up, walked down there with his pack of beer, and there were no turtles. And then I'd say, what do you think would happen because of that? And we would just write the story like this, but this interactivity is the key to the right. Okay.
Yeah.
Sorry to drag you into my workshop. I was just
no. I'm happy to volunteer anytime.
And so that wouldn't be hard to do it that day, the 20 minutes before the show, to kind of work out how that's all going to play, because it seems like it's very interactive.
All it is you just let us know. We're going to spotlight 2 people next to each other, and we're good to go. Okay. The other thing is, I can't speak for Erin, but if you were doing a workshop and you need a person to demonstrate something with, and it's not, you don't have any takers from the audience or something, I can always jump in and be your guinea pig. I've got a background in improv, and I'm happy to do that. So let me know if you need me in any way like that. And
that's
so
what we're using improv as a mechanism for creating different types of stories using old stories we know.
Cool. Yeah, sounds great. All right, any other questions?
No, thank you.
Okay, just to be clear, spotlighting is something only the host will do. That's not a co-host. Okay.
Yep.
All right.
I mean, co-hosts have the ability to spotlight, but we don't want you as the performers and the hosts for the MCs, we don't want you to have to be worrying about spotlighting people. We want you to just be your fabulous self, be engaging, be energetic, and let us handle all that tech stuff, and we'll just make you look good.
Well, I was just wondering from Paul's example, if I as a co-host for his session or someone else's session who wanted to do that, I would need to know who he picks from the audience, or some cue that this is the person to spotlight. So if that's not in my lane, it's okay.
No, that's fine. I mean, yeah, because it would be the same as with a regular workshop, and say, I take a volunteer, you can either raise your hand on video or you can raise your hand in the chat. Okay, great. The first hand I see is Sue's. All right, Sue, go ahead and unmute yourself. And as you're saying that, we will be spotlighting them. We're going to take our cues from you. You're not going to have to say like, oh, hey, Katie, can you spotlight her too? Hint, hint, nudge, nudge. We get it. We're picking up your hints. Okay. We've done this a few times before. We want you to know that you're in good hands, and we want to have you feel like you're in good hands too. So, just trust us a little bit. We'll do what we can. And especially if you use that phrase, and now welcome to the stage, so-and-so, that gives us a really clear cue for MCs. And then for workshop leaders, you just say, hey, okay, yeah, Sue, great. And that's all I need. I need to know that Sue raised her hand and that you called on her, and I'm good. I'm going to spotlight her for you. So yes, Jay?
I am going to say that I did change that for the afternoon workshop and all the workshop leaders and all the MCs. I did change that. We're going to welcome to the spotlight instead of to the.
Okay.
So FYI, that makes it a little bit easier, because that exactly.
I'm frozen again. It's connecting again. Fourth time in an hour.
That one works. It's a little echoey, but it'll be good for a question.
Question for you on the PowerPoint slides. Can you use animation within the PowerPoint?
Yeah, the one thing you have to make sure that you do is when you share your screen, you well, wait, actually for animation, you like just animating the simple things coming, that's fine. If you're going to
Right,
embed a video, you want to make sure that you have it set to do videos.
Right. No, I'm not going to do a video. I was just thinking about animated letters or something like that.
Yeah, any functionality you have normally with PowerPoint, you should be able to use, no problem.
Okay. I think that's all I got right at the moment.
Okay, great. All right, well, thank you everybody. And we will see you as a part of the festival. And if you have more questions, you can always send them along to Janet and she can pass them our way. But I'm hoping that we've gotten most of your questions answered, and you should have access to go back to the video and rewatch this later if you missed anything or have any other questions. So thanks again. Have a wonderful rest of your day. We'll see you soon.
And save the chat if you're interested. I don't know. That's your choice. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
I appreciate everything you're doing for the festival. It's wonderful. Thank you.
Katie,
have a great afternoon.
Will do. Did you have a question, Paul?
Yeah. Do you have to run? I don't want to keep you if you're running.
I don't have too long, but I could like stay for another, like 2 more minutes.
Shane wasn't able to be with us today, and so she's moving, and
Okay.
so it sounds horrible. So I was wondering, is there a time we could get together that is not the 20 minutes, 30 minutes before the show to meet with our tech folks? Is there any way to set that up or get who they are and just see if we can coordinate a quick meeting with them and talk through what we're going to do? Is that idiotic? Is that
Well, what
painful?
I would suggest is that you put it all in writing. So maybe that you and your partner get together and figure out what you're going to do, and then just put it in writing and get that to Janet.
Okay.
And then we can go through it the little bit of time beforehand. But I think, I mean, honestly, most of those kinds of rehearsals that I've been to, it hasn't really been necessary that I'm there. Mostly it's more that the two people who are presenting together need to work out their own timing and their own stuff, right? So I think that would be my suggestion, is to figure out, do your own Zoom meeting, with your performance partner, and then
We scripted all that. We just
perfect.
wanted to literally, I'm looking at the 20 pages we got here of how we want everything to flow. No, it's not 20 pages, but I've got it here. I think what I was looking for was, we didn't want anybody to be shocked. But if you think it's the 20 minutes before is going to be sufficient, we don't have any polls. We have a couple of docs. We're going to want people to jump in, and we're going to try to create we're going to create a show from the workshop, and people are going to come tell stories at the show based on what they create in the workshop.
Wow.
So it's kind of, it's meta, but that's what we're shooting for. And so I don't want anybody to be surprised who's in the tech room going, what the hell are they doing? Sorry?
Yeah, what's the name of your workshop?
That's a great question. I should probably know that right off the top of my head. Old stories and new skins, I believe.
Okay, so Erin will be your tech.
Excellent.
And yeah, and her degree is in like videos, and she's really on top of tech stuff. So she will have no problem being able to do any kind of tech things that you need.
Okay. Thank you so much. Sorry to
Yeah,
keep
you're
you
welcome.
late.
That's fine. All right.
Bye-bye.
Cool. And did you have another question, Rebecca, or did you just stick around just to listen?
No, I thought of one when he said that. When you spotlight, and again, this is kind of out of my lane, but I'm just curious how it works behind the scenes. When you're spotlighting, do you have a setting where it automatically does a split screen between the person that's spotlighted and someone who has been given permission to speak? So like a spotlight speaker view split?
Yeah, what you do is you just add a spotlight rather than changing the spotlight. So like right now, if I want to add you so that we have, we're it's the two of us, then I just do add spotlight rather than changing a spotlight. If I want it to just be you, then I remove my spotlight and you're the person who shows up, even if I'm talking.
Well, what I'm wondering is if I'm spotlighted, do you have a way to do a split where it automatically say would keep me spotlighted, but
Mhm.
then the other window would just go to whoever else is speaking. So it would
No, no, it has to
um
either be on speaker view or,
or a
um,
spotlight.
yeah,
Okay.
yep. So the
Okay.
way that I
All
would
right.
do that, then if you knew there were gonna be a lot of people speaking, I would remove my own spotlight. I would take, and I would remove your spotlight. And then while you're talking, it would stay on you. And then once you are done talking, it would automatically jump to whoever else starts talking.
Okay. All right. All right. Thank you.
Yeah.
That was it.
All right. Thanks, everyone. Have a great day. Bye.
Thank you. Excellent.